Alright, time to review this beast here, the Danish War Axe by Arms & Armor. You may have seen it in other videos on my channel, so let's take a look at it. It's available for $350 US, either on Arms & Armor's website or on Cult of Athena. It's made in the US, and it is based on a find at the British Museum from the River Thames, dating to the 10th or 11th century. The original is a little different. It says on the website of the British Museum that the edge is quite thin and then it thickens immediately after. And you can in fact see that on the picture despite the corrosion. There is a bit of a ridge visible where it tapers. This one here unfortunately doesn't have that. It's just a plain blade with a convex grind towards the edge. It may look huge, but it's actually quite light because the blade is very thin. So this is clearly not a splitting or felling axe. For wood chopping, this wouldn't be particularly suitable because it is that thin, but it's really designed for cutting flesh and bone and to be maneuverable in combat. If you're not familiar with how axes are made and have seen mostly tomahawks, you may be wondering what holds this on, what prevents the head from just popping off. And it's really just friction. It is made with a cutout in the shaft, then the head is put on and a wedge is driven into the gap to expand the wood and hold the head in place. Then afterwards, the axis is cut off. In this case, as you can see, it's cut off from two different angles. The shaft is rectangular with rounded corners, so that makes it extremely comfortable in the hand, and it also allows you to feel the edge alignment. Overall, the wood seems to be of good quality, although I can't say for sure because I'm not a woodworker. I just don't see any obvious flaws, at least. The only thing that I'm not a fan of is how there is a gap here between the blade and the shaft. It's not really a big deal looking at how tightly everything is fitted, but this space there I'd rather not have, so I would prefer if the eye was either shaped differently so that the steel is directly in contact with the wood there, or if an additional wooden wedge was driven in there to fill the gap. It would look a little better. It would also make me a little more confident in the construction, even though the way this is shaped, since it is rectangular and fits perfectly on the side, so there is really no gap there. So that shouldn't be an issue, but still, it would be nice if that was a little different. Otherwise, in terms of handling, no complaints whatsoever. So as I said, this feels really light. This is quite a light blade for the size. And because you can use it, you can place your hands any way you like. If you want it to be extra nimble, you could spread them pretty far apart. If you want more cutting power, you can slide down. So there's a lot of versatility here, and it's super easy to move around. So this is really quite nice and agile, and you can cut remarkably well with it. I did some water bottle cutting with this just to show that despite it being an axe, you can deliver really nice clean cuts that just make the bottle drop without being battered around. I also filled up a bottle with a mixture of water and cornstarch. It gave it a little more mass and it was quite satisfying to cut. It makes really nice sounds and it does it beautifully. I also cut a young coconut with it. I messed up the edge alignment a little bit. You can see how it goes in and then it kind of breaks it open to the side because it rotates a little bit. That was entirely my fault, but it was still quite easy to do, and it's overall a lot of fun to use. I also did an armor test with it because I had some incredibly thick and tough leather, and I was trying to see how that works out. It resisted all the swords that I put against it, trying to damage it. The axe was the only thing that went through. I tried to do some tests against mail, riveted mail, but I wasn't really happy with the setup because the stand was moving around too much whereas an entire body, of course, doesn't give as much, has more mass behind it. So it would be probably easier to go through mail with this. Tore open the linen here, and yeah, it's not major damage here, but this would have definitely been very painful and might have potentially broken bones. And the mail is in pretty rough shape at this point. We've got one really major hole here. Against somebody on a historical battlefield wearing mail, they wouldn't be happy about this. This would cleave right through the rings and into their body. So this is an extremely powerful, fearsome weapon. It has its reputation for a reason. And at the same time, it's still something that you can use without putting yourself at a major disadvantage. A lot of one-handed axes, especially if they have a thick head, can be somewhat clumsy to swing around. Not so this one. This is so light that you can very easily change direction at any time. Not like this is a thrusting weapon. You could, but it wouldn't be very effective. But you can very easily stop at any time and then switch around and cut from the other side. So yeah, very, very agile weapon for its type. And it's really a joy to handle. People at Blood and Iron were also excited when I brought it for cutting tests and seemed to quite like it. Julian did a little draw cut decapitation, which was noise. Yeah, the noise is also kind of a meme at this point, isn't it? Or at least a running gag. Anyway, so lots of positive things about it. And it's, again, as said, it's a blast to use. Lots of fun. And it surprises pretty much everybody who picks it up, and especially who tries to cut with it, because of how well it works. The only thing that I find is a bit of a shame is that they simplified the blade shape. On the original, there's a stronger taper from the blade to the edge, and you can see the bevel in the picture. So it would make it look a little more interesting and would probably also change the performance a little bit. In this case, the edge is, that's all right. I would have preferred it to come sharper, as always, and I did resharpen it. But the way it comes, you can still cut with it. And if the edge alignment is good, the overall profile is quite decent. It's a good convex grind. It's very even, so there's not much friction there. That's good. And you just generate so much power with it. As long as you keep the edge right, this is going to go through a lot of things. When it comes to reproductions of dane axes, there are hardly any alternatives on the market. There is the cold steel dane axe, which doesn't seem to be as nicely shaped as this one, from what I've seen, although to be fair, it also only costs a fraction. And otherwise, I really haven't seen anything. You can get a custom one, and there are some really good axe makers, but it's of course higher price class, and also it takes a while for them because they usually have a backlog and they have to get around to it. So this is more readily available, and it doesn't cost $1,000 or however much you would have to pay for a custom axe. Considering that, this is hard to beat. Although I should say it can't really be beaten because I haven't seen any better dane axe for a similar price on the market. So there you go. This is pretty much, if you want one, I'd say go for this one. That's really as simple as it is. And that covers it. So I hope you found this review helpful, and thanks for watching.